I have a more grounded question for you. You might
Sure. Yeah,
appreciate.
yeah.
So there's a puzzle towards the end of The Witness, which obviously without spoiling much, the object of the sequence is finding a solution that fits not just the first one, but all five or six, however many it is. It's right before. Yeah, you might remember the exact one I'm
That
talking
is one
about
of
now.
my favorite puzzles to have designed in the game. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I bring it up because when I experienced that one, I remember feeling a sense of like there had been moments of aha. There had been moments of which I know you were looking for when you made the game. In some ways, is that there's this eureka moment, this feeling of discovery, this element where you can put the pieces together. But in this case, it was like this was a moment where it felt like you had transcended the what had hitherto been the object of the game or some big element of the game of like putting the pieces together, but it was like you found a way to make a sequence that would work in that context, and it was there was an element of like true beauty in that I felt like when I experienced that one that was like if there was nothing else that ever even measured up to it in the rest of the game, then that was still like so much worth the experience, like the price of admission and the time investment in it, because you get to be a conduit as you're playing it for solving. And I don't know, I didn't go back and try it again, but maybe there was only one solution that would fit all cases. I don't. That's a subject that you might be able to broach later on. Is the idea of like how many puzzles in the game had more than one solution, for example. But even like regardless of the specifics, it felt like that was like similar to the Braid example that I gave, where you get to experience something backwards. Except this one is like if you had if you had done that in the Braid example, except you had somehow managed to like take everything that you had learned in the Braid in the game and like turn it up a level, and like there it is, there you're at the apex, like this is the precipice. And you know so I'm interested in the thought process that went into that puzzle, and what was it tempting as well to like to push that forward and to have more than that, because I almost felt that like having solved the puzzles that came afterwards, that was one of the cases where it was like, wow, there wasn't another one that was like this, that was like identical in rule set, that behaved the same way. There wasn't one that was like, oh, he just took that idea and recycled it. So can you
Yeah.
speak a little bit to that specific one?
Yeah, that was definitely so that puzzle sequence that's in the mountain, right, in the game, and sort of the pervading thing that happens in the mountain is we take this template of puzzle solving that we established outside the mountain, right? And then we start playing games with sort of the medium of like the interface between you and the puzzle in some way. And like we do it in different ways. So like let's force you to solve puzzles from kind of far, or where you can't see the whole thing because of like a technical glitch in the puzzle or whatever. And then the thing that makes this sequence happen, like the fiction in the very 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 small fiction idea that's in there, is just like this puzzle happens to be like broken, like it's a sequence of stuff, and it happens to be broken in a way where they all go at once, right? And there's other puzzles in the area that are broken, and like the colors are distorted or whatever, right? And so um yeah, so the all going at once thing, right, that's just one of these ideas that you have when you're designing a puzzle, is like, okay, I could do a really interesting thing where you're solving simultaneous constraints, right? And then there's a question of how do I execute that? Because the puzzle could have been presented as, here's three kind of hard puzzles that are all different. You got to solve all of them at the same time. And we could have had an area that was that, right? But I was satisfied with just one for this. And because it was like representation of the idea, right? Like when you start out, it's like, okay, this is a game where we have this format of puzzle and we're going to explore all the different things that we can do with it. And this is one of those things, right? Um, and so it was enough for me for that to have let the exploration like touch off in at this point, right? um, and just show it. And we didn't have to go there for more of the game. Although, you could imagine like a game that starts there even, right? And then goes into what is all that. And another reason for that is just by the time I got to designing that puzzle, the witness was like really huge. And you have to make practical choices about what's in the game. And like, where do you draw the line of what's in the game, right? Now, the other choice that I had when designing that puzzle, well, like I said, it could have just been presented as here's three things and you solve them simultaneously. Ta-da, and that would have been neat. But it's actually played as a surprise instead, right? It's like you don't know that's what it is. And in fact, there's no way of knowing because it's the one thing that happens in the witness for people who haven't played is there's like a row of like little LCD panels and most of them are turned off a lot of the time. Sometimes they're on, but usually they're off. And you see the next one by solving the first one. So when you solve the first one, it's a totally normal puzzle. In fact, it's too easy. Like for the part of the game you've got into, and that's foreshadowing in some way, right? Like, when like the hero goes into some cave and they're like, I've got a bad feeling about this. This is too easy, right? And then something bad happens. It's almost like that, where it's like, wait, there's just like a thing in the corner and maybe there's some other dot, I don't remember, but it's like it's a very easy puzzle for like the amount of space that you have. A lot of the times in the witness it's like I almost could solve this but I don't have enough space, so I'm being forced to like wrangle or whatever. And this is just there's so much space and you're just like, what's going on? And then you start doing the second puzzle, and even when you start doing the second puzzle you maybe don't realize what's happening because the view that you have is here, and you start in the lower left, and even though the thing is going in the lower left over there, you don't see it until you get to the end, right? So you might see that it cleared when you started, but like that's not enough to really understand. And so by the time you solve the second puzzle, you maybe start getting what's going on. So it's a dawning realization, right? And I like that. I like that. So first of all, it's natural dawning. We're not like contriving to hide things. It's like we're revealing what's happening in a way that's natural to the format that we already established, right? But then by the time you see this, you're like, oh, right, that's interesting. But then as the puzzle proceeds, it gets more and more interesting because of the things that you're asked to do simultaneously, right? And one of the things that's interesting to me about this is there's a flip in the following, the way that's designed. And you could, okay, so in theory, you could just walk up to this puzzle and the very thing that you've put in is the thing that solves it in the end. There's nothing stopping anyone from doing that, but you don't know what that is. It's like astronomically unlikely, right? Um, Instead, you're going to do sort of this minimally simple thing like, oh, I think there's like a too long shape in the corner. I don't remember exactly, but you're going to go around that and then you're going to go do the other thing. And you're going to do something pretty simple. And then the next one like adds another thing that you also have to do, right? And so you do your same simple thing, but you elaborate the shape. And the next one is another simple thing. So you're getting this pattern of like elaborating, okay, I'm doing more and more things to like fit all the things that I have to do, right? And then there's a breaking point where that doesn't work anymore, right? Where you have to instead of incrementally elaborating the thing that you've been doing, you have to like break all of it and reconceptualize even that very first piece that you did the simple thing to like wall off. You have to treat that differently now, right? And and then you can eventually finish the puzzle. And so so this is over explaining something, right? Like this is not the experience that people have when they play it is not this explain. There's no words in that part of the game, but it's just to say that like this is, so as a designer, I see that idea and I see that way to have this. So, firstly, this is a very good, I like this concrete example that you brought up, right? So, firstly, there's the beginning idea, which is solving things simultaneously, right? Okay, like I said at the beginning of the talk, that's the starting point. And then you figure out what the game is from that starting point. You could just do the very boring thing, but then, like, can you make it more interesting, right? Can you find beauty in that, right? There's some beauty to the simultaneity idea, but then there's even more somehow to this like experience through time of the simultaneity causing both this elaboration that you think is the pattern and then the shattering of the pattern and reversal. Like all of that somehow combines to make this thing that's like it's like a mini story, right? By the time you're done, because all these things happened in this one set of puzzles. And so for me as a designer, I definitely find the beauty that I see in that, right? And then I'm trying to put that in the game in a way that it survives to be able to communicate that beauty to somebody else. And so I'm glad that you saw that, right? And that's my job, right? And if I can do that enough, then I'm doing a good job. It's a very hard job, right? Because communicating the beauty of a nonverbal topic is like not like I didn't learn that by watching Knight Rider. When I don't think so. Maybe I did. Who knows? But but it's hard, right? And uh, but it's also what really makes it like that's a thing that you can't do in a movie because it happens in your head as a response to like you're working through what you should do in this game. And um so if we're working on making games a more powerful medium, it's like it's stuff like that that interests me that you can't do in a movie. Like what is this beauty that we can show that movies don't even know how to go there and books don't even know how to go there, right? That is better to me than just trying to copy those things and do our flavor of it that's worse. So, yeah, I mean that one puzzle is it's emblematic in some way of the things that I try to do. You know, it's a good example of having done a good job at the kinds of things that I try to do. And you know, then when we go back to what we were saying about this new puzzle game having the most number of ideas, it's things like that though. It's like they're good like that. They're not, you know, the idea now is that you have to shoot the monster or whatever.